In his response to the demands of the Algerian popular movement for the 11th consecutive day, Kaid Saleh carried out his threat against what he called the gang. On Tuesday, the three, Bouteflika, and Tawfiq and Othman Tartak, were arrested and placed in temporary custody on charges prejudice to the authority of the army and conspiracy against the authority of the state. The decision of Kaid Saleh, who became the de facto ruler of Algeria, was not surprising. It was a continuation of the series of arrests carried out by the Algerian regime in an attempt to mix the papers and circumvent the demands of the popular movement demanding the departure of the regime and its symbols, including Kaid Saleh, where rallies and slogans calling for his departure, while rallies rallied Algerians to reject the military rule and demanded the return of the army to barracks and leave politics and respect the will of the people as a source of authority in choosing who will lead the transitional phase in the horizon of building a democratic civil order. If the official and pro-government media had focused on the news of the serious charges against said Bouteflika, Tawfiq and Tartak, this trick did not apply to the Algerians. The popular movement is demanding the departure and accountability of the regime, but not in the way that Kaid Saleh and the rest of the regime pass it and forget the real demands of Algerians. Accounting for the symbols of the old regime for the Algerians is a demand of their demands, but the most important is the departure of the regime and its symbols, and then it will cost the Algerian people to choose to hold accountable all those who contributed to corruption and all those involved. What Kaid Saleh is doing today is nothing more than a settling of accounts between the wings of the regime, which the Algerians are demanding of his departure, and a bet on the slackening of the popular movement and its division. The charges against said Bouteflika, Tawfiq and Tartak, what is the meaning of prejudice to the authority of the army and conspiracy against state authority, while the Algerians do not recognize this authority and reject the authority of the military? If there is a conspiracy, it is against the people and against its will, as evidenced by the adherence of Kaid Saleh to the presidential elections of July 4 and the continuation of the interim president and the Badawi government in running the country and supervising the transitional period. 8 of the Constitution and not Article 102, which Kaid Saleh wants to download after it is too late, after which, overtaken by the popular movement. Kaid Saleh, who was accused of violating the Constitution and intervening in judicial affairs by issuing orders to arrest wanted prisoners, resorted to another trick. He pushed the country's interim president, Abdelkader bin Saleh, to address the nation on Sunday, in order to remove the suspicion governing the military institution in the corridors of power, although the interim president of the country has been a spectator since his appointment after the orders of Kaid Saleh of the Constitutional Council. Kaid Saleh and the military establishment control the power of the authority. It is clear from the contents of the speech of Abdelkader bin Saleh to the nation. He came to plead with the words of the Chief of Staff of the War and the Deputy Minister of Defense every Tuesday during his field visits to the military zones of popular mobility. The Algerians will have a day tomorrow with another speech in which Kaid Saleh will respond to slogans on Friday. Abdelkader bin Saleh reissued the same CD that Kaid Saleh has been playing by calling for a comprehensive dialogue to arrange for the holding of presidential elections on July 4 to spare the country constitutional vacuum and thwart hostile schemes. The intelligent dialogue, with the sincere intention, is the only way to provide the conditions for the organization of presidential elections within the deadlines, to finally emerge from the political instability, he said in a speech broadcast on state television on the eve of the holy month of Ramadan. The president-elect will have the authority to respond to the legitimate demands of the people. The adoption of a constructive dialogue with state institutions is the only way out of the crisis, recognizing that dialogue is one of the finest and noblest methods of dealing with humanity, said Ahmed Kaid Saleh, which is the most effective way to provide constructive suggestions and bring the views closer and achieve consensus on the solutions available. Thus, Kaid Saleh continues to ignore the demands of the Algerian people, by adhering to the power and literal application of Article 102 of the Constitution, in an attempt to undermine the old regime, which is rejected by the people in full, and the right of the political analyst and university professor, Louisa A. Hamadouche, Abdelkader bin Saleh, was a bit strange, as it was contrary to the expectations of Algerians who were waiting for concrete decisions. But Ben Saleh delivered a speech as if the country is living a normal political situation and not exceptional. The desperate attempts of Kayed Saleh seek to rotate the old regime and to show it in a different way, to circumvent the demands of the people and to deceive the Algerians that everything has changed with all the spices and bases on which the military regime has been based since the army took power after the coup against the interim government 1962 and stealing the fruits of independence.